Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here my currently inked pens for this week. I think let's go through these briefly one by one. We'll go through them in a little bit more detail and then we'll do a writing sample. So from left to right we have the Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog, we have the Visconti Daedalus, we have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Swirl, we have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Midnight in Florence, we have the Visconti Leonardo da Vinci Machina, we have a Pilot Custom Urushi in the Vermilion, we have a Lamy Dialogue 3, we have a Sailor King of Pen Pro Gear in the Ocean, we have a Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove, and then last but not least we have the Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina in the Shiny Circles. So I think let's go through these pens in a little bit more detail. This is the Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog, and believe it or not, this was my first Visconti that I ever owned. I didn't actually go for any of the Rembrandts or the Van Goghs, although I did actually go for some of those later in my collecting of Viscontis. I love the ribbons on these London Fogs, although they are a little bit muted once you have some ink inside there. I have been toying with putting maybe a pink or a red ink in there, probably a pink or an orange maybe, but I have been worried about it staining the barrel more, so I haven't done that. That might accentuate the ribbons a little bit more, perhaps. Now, the nib on here is a 23 carat palladium fine nib, and I find that this is one of my best fine writing nibs, especially from Visconti. It writes absolutely gorgeous, and I really do love that. And it is hard, not only with Visconti, but with other manufacturers, to get the same feeling on that nib when you buy more pens. So you could buy maybe 5 or 10 pens, whether or not it's Visconti or whether or not it's Pelikan, and you could buy the same nib width, but you will find that there are variances between each of those nibs. And I have other fine nibs from Visconti. Some of them are similar to this, some of them write more like a medium, but I love this nib. I love it a lot. This week I've also had inked up the Visconti Daedalus, and this is a beautiful pen. It uses this blue resin, which is impregnated with real silver dust there that you can see within the body. It really is a beautiful pen, and you have the Minotaur on here and Daedalus here, and then you have the mazes here. So this really is a stunning overlay. The overlay is a silver made overlay, and it's a double reservoir power vac filler, just like the Visconti Homo Sapien London Fog. And then the nib in here is a 23 carat palladium medium nib, but I love how this writes, and I love the size of this pen. It really is a beautiful pen, and I'm so glad that I was able to add this to my collection. So I'll thank Michael at Manuscript, who are the UK distributor, for allowing me to get hold of this pen, and I really do love it. The next pen, now you may say isn't inked up, and it's not. I have cleaned it out a bit. I was going to change ink, and then I realised that I should probably add this to my currently inked for this week, and I unfortunately have cleaned it out, so I'm going to dip test this nib. But this is the Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Swirl, and this really has some great bronze swirls. This is a 23 carat palladium nib. It's a stub nib, 1.3mm stub nib, but I love this pen. I love the ivory effect that's going on here in that cap and the ribbons. I honestly wish Visconti would make a lot more of these. I think perhaps Visconti have not got any more material like this, but this really is a stunning material. So I'm so glad that I had the option to add that to my collection as well. The next pen is the Visconti Homo Sapiens Midnight in Florence, and again, this is another one with the ribbons going on here, but there's a lot more sort of opaqueness to this body, and I like it though. I do like this pen. I love how this nib writes. The nib is a 23 cat palladium medium nib, and it is a double reservoir still, and it's a power vac filling mechanism. But I do find that I love these pens. They are really, really, they just fit my hand really well, and I love the weight, I love the length, I love the thickness of the section here, I love the hook safe lock mechanisms on these Homo sapiens, and for me that is a winner. And then more recently, in 2020, I've been able to add this very special pen. And again, I guess I should thank Michael at Manuscript for allowing me to get this pen. I did buy it. I do buy all of my pens. But this is a very special pen. And this is the Leonardo da Vinci Machina. And you can just see here, this is just such a beautiful pen. I really love it. And this has one of the newer style 18 karat gold nibs, and it's a medium nib, but it writes more like a fine. And I don't mind that, and I do find that I like writing with it. It has its own characteristic. It's quite a crisp nib. It's not as smooth as my London Fog nib, and it has some feedback to it, but I actually do like how it writes. So again, this isn't a double reservoir, but it has a hook safe lock on there, and it is about the same size and girth to a Homo sapiens, and I love it. I really do love this pen, and you can actually feel all of the texture here on this scrimshaw that is going on in that body. So that I have inked up this week. I also have this pen, and this is the Pilot Custom Urushi in the Vermilion, and yes, I have added this to my collection. This is a really nice pen. It's a number 8 size nib. It's a honker of a pen, honker of a nib. It's very girthy, it's very long, and it has a large, effectively a number 10 size nib, but I love it. I really do love this pen. It does come with a Pilot Con 70, which you can see there. But I do like this pen a lot. It really does write well for me. So this is actually a fine medium, and it's an 18 karat gold nib. But I do like how that one writes. And I decided, this is a pen that a few friends have had, and I wanted to get one. I've tried one before. I didn't know if I would ultimately like it or not. I wanted a retractable nib pen. I have a number of Pilot Vanishing Points or Pilot Capless pens, and I just don't write with them. And I think it's because they're a little bit on the thinner side, and the ink capacity isn't great. So this is the Lamy Dialogue 3, and it is a retractable pen, and you can see the nib as it goes in and comes back out again. And this is a 14 karat gold nib, but it really is a nice pen, and it's a very substantial pen. It's quite heavy as well. But that's another pen that I have inked up this week that I have been writing with. Then I have this one, and this is the Sailor King of Pen Pro Gear in the Ocean, and it's a special edition version that came out in 2019. You can see the Sailor logo there on the cap finial. It's a Sailor King of pen, but it's got the flattened Pro Gear ends to it. And I do find this a little bit shorter than the regular Sailor King of pens, but I can write with this still uncapped, or unposted, but I can post the cap if I want to. But I typically don't, and I typically just use it like this. It's got a 21 karat gold medium nib, which is, because it's an Asian nib, it's more of a Western fine, but I find that this writes really nicely as well. It's a little bit more crisper than my other Sailor King of Pen nibs, but it has some character which I do like. The next pen is the Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove, and this is a beautiful stacked celluloid here. It really is a beautiful pen, and this unfortunately is long sold out. It was a Goulet exclusive pen, but you might be able to still get this on the second-hand used market. But this is a beautiful Montegrappa. Comes with a number 8 size dove nib there, Montegrappa dove nib, and it's a medium nib with an ebonite feeder. But this really is a beautiful pen, and I love it. I love it a lot. Just look how that chatoyance comes off of that stacked celluloid. It's really, really nice. So that I also have inked up this week. And then I have this one, which is its bigger brother. And this is the Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina Shiny Circles. And if you don't know, Bartolomeo Ferracina was a clock or watchmaker in Italy. Now, it has the Shiny Circles celluloid that Montegrappa have. I believe it's unique to them. I don't believe I've seen any other manufacturer have this colour of shiny circles in the celluloid. And because it's a watchmaker, you'll see there it has a watch or a clock there. And I will just show my watch, 15:08, and it's there 3:10. So yes, this clock does work. The little black dot here is a solar panel. It's a quartz battery, so it can recharge the battery for a number of years. But this, I really love the shape. The shape is quite strange. It's, in terms of a pen, it becomes quite bulbous here. It actually reminds me of the Mont Blanc Homer to that degree. And I think that's why I might actually like to try a Mont Blanc Homer at some point. But this has a Montegrappa number 8 size nib there, and it's a medium nib. But this really is a nice pen, and I wanted another Montegrappa, and I wanted one that would sort of go well on my collection with the Shiny Lines Dove, and I think this one does quite nicely. If I put that back in, you will see that there. It is a lot larger than the Shiny Lines Dove, but the Ferracina, or the Bartolomeo Ferracina, is a lot longer and a lot wider as well at this point here, but it's a beautiful pen. So that's my currently inked pens for this week. I think let's go and do a writing sample. So the first pen is the Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog. So let's do a writing sample. And this is a fine nib, quite a fine nib, but it's also moderately wet as well. It's not a fire hose nib like some Visconti nibs have been in the past. You can see that it is a very, very fine nib. So this is the Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog in a fine, it's a 23 carat palladium nib, and then the ink in here is Waterman inspired blue, which is a beautiful blue ink that I think goes nice in that London fog. The next pen is the Visconti Daedalus, and we'll do an ink swatch. Now this is a medium nib, 23 carat palladium nib, and this is going more back to the Visconti wetness of nibs. So this is a Visconti Daedalus, and it is a medium 23 carat palladium nib, and then the ink in here is Visconti blue, which is actually a very nice sort of vibrant blue. The next pen is the Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Swirl, and we'll do an ink swatch here. Now this is a wide nib, and you can just see how wet this writes. This is a Visconti Homo sapiens bronze swirl, and it's a 1.3mm stub nib, and it's a 23 cat palladium nib. And then the ink in here is Robert Oster Cafe Crema, which really actually makes me want to go and have a coffee right now. The next pen is the Visconti Homo sapiens Midnight in Florence. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And you can just see that this is a very wet writing nib. So this is a Visconti Homo sapiens Midnight in Florence. And it is a medium 23 cat palladium nib. And the ink in here is KWZ Gummy Berry. The next pen inked up is the Visconti Leonardo da Vinci Machina. We'll do an ink swatch. Now, you might hear that nib, but it does have feedback to it. But it's not bad feedback. So this is the Visconti Leonardo da Vinci, and it's the Machina. And it is a medium 18 cat gold. It's the new gold nibs from Visconti. And then the ink in here is Akamon SBRE Brown, which is actually a diamine ink. All Akamon inks are diamine. The next pen we have is the Pilot Custom Urushi in the Vermilion. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And I always think that this red actually matches the red of the pen. So this is the Pilot Custom Urushi in the Vermilion. And it's a fine medium 18 cat gold nib. And then the ink in here is Mont Blanc Corn Poppy Red, which is a really nice red ink, and I've bought some more of that recently because it has now gone end of life. So if you want that ink, go to a retailer and buy it whilst you still can. The next pen is the Lamy Dialogue 3. Do an ink swatch. And this is quite a wet writing nib as well. Very smooth writing nib. So this is the Lamy Dialogue 3, and it's a fine 18, is it 18 or 14? 14 cat gold nib. But this really is a nice writing nib. And the ink in here is Mont Blanc. And I want to put Corn Poppy Red for some reason. It's not Corn Poppy Red, it's Mont Blanc Irish Green. But that is a nice green ink. The next pen is the Sailor King of Pen, and this is the Pro Gear Ocean Special Edition. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And I do find that this ink is a little bit dry in this pen. Just see that there. So this is, I'll probably change that ink out at some point in the near future to a different brand of ink. So this is the Sailor King of Pen, and it's the Pro Gear, and it's the Ocean Special Edition, and it's a medium, which is more like a Western Fine, and it's a 21 cat gold nib, as all Sailor nibs are, and or the King of Pen nibs anyway. And then the ink in here is Pelican, Edelstein, Aquamarine. And maybe I'll actually put in maybe Diamine Aqua Lagoon in there and see if that actually flows any better. The next pen is the Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove. We'll do an ink swatch. And you can see this is quite, again, a wet writing nib. So this is the Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove, and it is a medium, and it's an 18 cat gold nib, and the ink in here is Diamine Earl Grey, which is the ink that I like the most in grey. And then last but not least, we have the Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina Shiny Circles. So we'll do an ink swatch. And again, this is quite a nice wet writing nib. Not fire hose though. So it's Montegrappa, and it's Bartolomeo Ferracina Shiny Circles, and it is a medium, and it's an 18 cat gold nib, and then the ink in here again is Diamine Earl Grey. So I think let's take a look at these pens inked up one more time. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog in a fine 23 cat palladium nib, inked up with Waterman inspired blue. We have a Visconti Daedalus in a medium 23 cat palladium nib, inked up with Visconti blue. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Swirl in a 1.3mm 23 cat palladium stub nib, inked up with Robert Oster Cafe Crema. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Midnight in Florence in a medium 23 cat palladium nib, inked up with KWZ Gummy Berry. We have a Visconti Leonardo da Vinci Machina in a medium 18 cat gold nib, inked up with Akamon SBRE Brown. We have a Pilot Custom Urushi Vermilion in a fine medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Mont Blanc Corn Poppy Red. We have a Lamy Dialogue 3 in a fine 14 karat gold nib, inked up with Mont Blanc Irish Green. We have a Sailor King of Pen Pro Gear Ocean Special Edition in a medium 21 karat gold nib, inked up with Pelican Edelstein Aquamarine. We have a Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. And then last but not least, we have a Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina Shiny Circles in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. So there you have it, that's my currently inked pens for this week. Thanks for watching, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.